Hola, amigos. It is I. Hello, everyone. I would like to firmly and officially announce the beginning of a live stream, a rather celebratory live stream. Myself, um, I will be inviting as many people as possible, including perhaps we may have a surprisingly esteemed guest. Um, I have no clue if anyone has joined us yet. Well, then, so in this live stream, I will be officially just talking about history. It'll be like the good old days of the live streams, but also not completely like the good old days of the live streams, simply because I will be um, inviting lots of people. And hopefully, as many people as they want could join. I am simply waiting for people who want to join the live stream. Hang on, I'm gonna have live stream. Malik Shah, no. Subjective, no. JB, let's hope that someone joins soon, God willing. Well, it's up to God. Um, Micah History's Empire. Um, right now, I'm just waiting to see whoever wants to join. If there are any willful goyim who will be extracted into my dark Jewish experiment. All right. Micah History, you are here. I do not see you. Um, Comment, please. Like, have a chat. Hi, from Micah History. Hello, goyim. It is I, Rabbi Shlomo Shekelstein. Now, first of all, I would like to thank my aunt because I am at her apartment. Without her, this live stream would not be happening. It simply wouldn't because so many people are at my home. So many people are just doing their stuff, and I don't want to be disturbing anyone. And yeah, so till then, live stream to do, live stream to make, and yeah. So this live stream itself will be a couple things, a couple details. Now I'm gonna see if I can get my Uruguayan friend to join because I have continued to commit crimes against the entire. I've continued to commit a war crime against the country of Uruguay. Um, in the form of yerba mate. Now, if any of you guys know what mate is supposed to be, it's not that, right? It is not that. It is not this whole yerba mate thing. Guayanqui organic yerba mate, lemon elation. Historia Judaica says, Wassalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I will try to react to your video. But the first I want to show Historia Judica. I have a a Uruguayan beverage, an authentic Uruguayan beverage here. Now I'm able to share streams. Do I want you to ping in your server? Please do. Please get as much traction as possible. And until then, look, maybe inauthentic as hell, but at the very minimum, it is incredibly refreshing on such a hot summer day. This yerba mate. Very refreshing, like a very delicious caffeinated beverage to drink. Yeah, I've gotten more brownie points. About as Uruguayan as instant ramen is Mongolian. Yeah, but look, it's in Omaha, Nebraska. What can you expect? We have so many things from so many other countries. Nobody like Uruguay is not an Asian country. Nobody is pinpointed. Nobody can pinpoint it on the map. Nobody knows what mate is, but someone has made a version of this, and hey, it's at the very minimum, it's not like they're at least trying to have a Uruguayan beverage that Americans can enjoy, and for that, I salute them. I had kefir earlier. Me too. Sip of kefir yesterday. Kefir is really good. Sometimes going to Micah History server. I will be. So I'll tell you the type of content that I will be having in the live stream. Wait, hang on. Minor announcements. Wait, is that the logo for the live stream? Oh no. Wait, no. Tier list of countries. I want to see his new Canada video because that will be my react. This will be the bulk of my live stream. Will be my react to Micah's history of Canada. This will be the bulk of it. But before I explain the bulk of the live stream, I will be doing one thing, which is a bit of a troll that I will be showing. I haven't seen Yonioski. Haven't seen you in a minute. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, I am a kefir enjoyer. So I will be yeah. So now, the first thing is I will be showing you guys my troll of flat earthers. Well, my troll pretending to be a flat earther. So if you see this is just one video, I don't understand why people think the earth is flat, blah blah blah. I don't understand how anyone can be a flat earther in the face of such evidence. And that is my first response. The earth is flat. Keaton Hardy 3297. You never went to school. The next guy, Super Monkey, says no. But I went to the Podunk Academy of Shades and Giggles, and I can tell you that the earth is flat. And you need to rethink. Have you ever been to Thailand? I've seen flat. And that's you. First sign is draw a line. Now, of course, the comments are, what the hell? If you can prove that the earth is flat, I will agree with you. Otherwise, the earth is round. And so I'm making these crazy arguments, and they keep getting debunked. But the issue is that my guy trying not to troll for 1 second, challenge impossible. Discord level neckbeard vibes. I am not. But of course, flat earthers also are the first people who said that dragons, fairies, and unicorns are not real. All right. There's a reason why we spend so much time discussing alternate history on Discord. I don't even get this whole mewing thing, but anyways, I will be showing you guys this video from someone who is not Justin Trudeau. So here we have the history of Canada, the Canada Day special. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. This is Micah History.
Now, could you hear Micah History's introduction?
And
Usually,
welcome to Canada Day special, where I
yeah. Could you hear the introduction in the video? What could you hear? Yeah, you could. So it's coming. Do you hear the audio? Is the audio improper? Yeah, I am pausing it. Uh, Historia Judica. I'm inviting as many people to it as possible. Um, Yo, have you seen Bring Me? Um, yeah. Norwegian set of a contest. Hello. Hello, Norwegian set of a contest. Thank you for coming. And bless you. I have sent here's a like I have sent this stream to a variety of people. Um, so God willing, by the way, please invite more and more people if you want. Yo, 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 yeah. So 45 minutes and 55 seconds.
will be covering the history of Canada. Now, for some of the oldest viewers, or in other words, the viewers who have been here the longest, you might ask yourself, hey, didn't you already make a video, or actually 2 videos about the history of Canada? I did. I made those about 5 years ago, just a little over 5 years ago. But I have rewatched them and I realized they're pretty bad. My voice sort of sounded weird, and also more importantly, the editing was pretty bad. And so I decided that now would be as good of a time as ever to make this video. Once again, the original video is unlisted, so I guess if you have the link somehow, you can still find it. But this video is going to be much more in detail, and this in 985, when an Icelandic merchant named Bjarni Herjolfsson was sailing from Iceland to Greenland, he was blown off course and he sighted land west of the fleet. This was the first time a European ever saw Canada. He described his discovery to Leif Erikson, the son of Eric the Red, who had been the first ever person to settle in Greenland. And Leif then decided to explore the area in more detail. This was the beginning of the period of early colonization. Leif sailed west in 1000 with a crew of 35 people. The Norwegians explored 3 different areas: Helluland or Baffin Island, Markland or Labrador, and Vinland in northern Newfoundland. This made him the first European to explore Nunavut and Newfoundland and Labrador.
So, as you can see from the Norwegian set of a contest, this is a message directed to you. The initial discovery of Vinland, was from a country slightly worse than Sweden.
It was Vinland where Leif became the first European to land in Canada, and he founded a city called Leifbudir. The first European colony in Canada was Vinland, which covered northern Newfoundland. In 1004, Leif's brother Thorvald Eriksson sailed to Vinland with 30 men. And the following year, he attacked 9 native people. The 9th one was able to escape and soon came back to the Norwegian camp with a force. Thorvald was killed by an arrow, the first ever known battle in Canadian history. And this would make Thorvald, unfortunately, the first ever European to die in Canada. In 1009, Thorfinn Karlsefni, another European explorer, left to go to Vinland. However, fighting soon broke out, and in 1010, the Norwegians retreated in Vinland, ending the Norwegian colonization of Canada after just 10 years.
To be honest, I didn't know Canada was founded by an Islamic nation. Hey, we're not Sweden. Yes, you are slightly worse than Sweden. Early European exploration. You see, this was after the Arabs were finished with exploring. So now that the Arabs were finished exploring Canada, we're going to see the European Swedish.
But then, in 1492, Christopher Columbus, who, by the way, I've made a video about him, so check it out, a Genoese explorer sailed west to find South and Southeast Asia, which restarted the European colonization of the Americas.
Now, what we call Asia, they called back in the day India.
Soon, most European countries, including England, were interested in the route crossing the Atlantic that would get them to South and Southeast Asia. In 1497, Henry VII, King of England and Lord of Ireland, hired a Venetian explorer called John Cabot to find a route across the Atlantic to get to the Maluku Islands. However, on the 24th of June, he ended up in Newfoundland, becoming the first European to go to Canada since the Norwegians. But since he thought that he had arrived in the Maluku Islands, he didn't bother colonizing it. He did end up returning the following year, though, in search of the Northwest Passage, which was a passage that the Europeans believed could bring them from the Atlantic to the Pacific without going down all the way past South America.
I mean, there is a real life Northwest Passage. It's just in the middle of the frozen Arctic. And plus, why would you want such a Northwest Passage, anyways?
And he became the first European to explore New Brunswick and Nova Scotia before disappearing. Now, he wasn't the only explorer in the area, with Portuguese explorer João Fernandes Lavrador becoming the first to explore the mainland north of Newfoundland in 1498, which would be named Labrador in his honor. Now, he wasn't the only Portuguese explorer in the area, since in 1501 and 1502, Gaspar and Miguel Corte Real explored Labrador and the newly named island Newfoundland, which they claimed for Portugal. In 1534, Francis I, King of France, sent Jacques Cartier, a French explorer, to explore Canada. He became the first European to explore Quebec and Prince Edward Island, as well as the first to land in Quebec. He then named the land Canada the following year, following a mistranslation of the local word for village. He then sailed down the St. Lawrence River to modern-day Montreal. Cartier found a fort at Charlesbourg Royal in Cap Rouge, now in Quebec City, in 1541. And this was the first colony in Canada since the time of the Norwegians, but it was abandoned the next year. Finally, in 1576, Martin Frobisher, an English explorer, became the first European to land in Nunavut and the first European to also explore the Northwest Territories.
I can't imagine the terror of the eyes of the individuals that discovered Canada after they found out Canadians would live there. I mean, regarding people like Justin Trudeau, they wouldn't even colonize it. But there is a certain beauty of Canada.
However, European colonization of Canada really began in 1605, after several unsuccessful French colonies were founded. In 1604, France colonized Nova Scotia, making it the first permanent colony in Canada and founding Acadia, the first permanent colony in New France. It was also the first time that Europeans landed in New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and Nova Scotia.
And a little bit of a tidbit for American history. Well, Canada is a breakaway province of America, anyways. But Acadia, the name Cajun comes from Acadia.
This ended the early colonial period and started the period of French domination of Canada. The settlement was known as Port Royal and was founded by Samuel de Champlain. Though only 80 people survived the first winter, with only 11 of them being healthy, it was the first time this colony had worked out for France. In 1608, France colonized the northeastern St. Lawrence River when Samuel de Champlain founded Quebec City with 28 men, of which 20 died, meaning only 8 survived. However, the settlement survived, and it would become the capital of New France. In 1609, France colonized Prince Edward Island and Anticosti.
Yeah.
However,
I
despite
agree.
these successes,
We should
in
go
order
other
for his
US
colonies
states
to
too, like,
survive,
do a history of
Champlain decided
Nebraska.
to send out young French
Another
men
state
to
in the
live with the
US.
natives so that they could learn how to adapt to living in.
Except my problem is that these Europeans, they call football soccer. You see, any country that calls football soccer, well, that calls soccer football. Any country that calls soccer football is officially European. That is the definition of a European country. So Canadian, Mexican, whatever. You're European if you call soccer football. That is just a fact. That is what Europeans truly are. That is the essence of the great history of Europe. It is calling soccer football. And why is this a problem? You see, we have a sport here in America that has not been covered by, that has not been corrupted by the Illuminati and the agenda to turn all the frogs gay. And we call that sport football. You see, Alex Jones was sort of right in that the government was using chemicals in the water to turn something gay. But rather than the frogs, it was football. And that spread throughout all of South America and throughout all of Europe to call it. Sir Welch, here I am. Nice. That spread throughout all of Europe and that spread throughout all of America and they called it soccer.
In this land. In 1610, one of these coureurs du bois, as they came to be known, or runners of the woods, Etienne Brulé, became the first European to explore Ontario, as well as the first to see Lakes Ontario, Huron, and Superior. In 1610, the colonies of Canada and Acadia were connected with the colonization of northern New Brunswick. The English didn't take long to notice what their chief rivals were up to, though, and in 1610, they decided to colonize eastern Newfoundland, establishing the Newfoundland colony, which was the first permanent colony in Newfoundland and Labrador. The following year, in 1611, English explorer Henry Hudson became the first European to explore Manitoba, while the next year, in 1612, another English explorer, Thomas Budden, became the first European to land there. Then, in 1615, the French and English got into more conflict as the French colonized western Newfoundland, and they brought their first Catholic missionaries to Canada.
They brought their first Catholic missionaries to Canada. We gladly welcome them into the European race. Yeah, because they call soccer football. You see, this is like, look at Leviticus in the Bible. Go to the Bible. Go to the book of Leviticus. Homosexuality is clearly forbidden. And the definition of homosexuality is calling football soccer. There's the definition of homosexuality in the Bible. If you know the Bible, if you read the Bible, you see, I read the I read the Fur Lord James Bible. That is the definition. Fur Lord James Bible of all four members within the Trinity. Hang on, a good friend is. All right. All right. Yes, hear you well. I was just reading Leviticus. Yeah, all right, true. Good point. To me, the only thing that cannot be blasphemed is God. That is it. Because God is God. He is beyond all. Hi. All right. You see the Fur Lord James Bible. If you read the Fur Lord James Bible, you will see that that homosexuality is forbidden. And the definition of homosexuality is to call football soccer.
Now, in 1627, another Anglo-French war broke out, and in an attempt to consolidate control, Cardinal Richelieu, who was basically running the French government, made Samuel de Champlain the governor of New France and banned non-Catholics from staying there, causing its Protestant population to move to the English colonies. This reduced the population of all of New France to a whopping 85 people. He also established the seigneurial system, which established a feudal system of farming that would continue for centuries. Even worse, in 1628, the first African slave in Canada, an 8-year-old boy from Madagascar, arrived. The next year, the English captured Quebec City as well as Nova Scotia, which was given that name by William Alexander, the first Earl of Stirling, who tried to establish a Scottish colony. This failed, though, when the war ended in 1631 and it was returned to France. Although New France continued as a colony, it had barely survived, and the French recognized the need to create more colonies, leading to the founding of Trois-Rivières in 1634. The following year, Samuel de Champlain died, having successfully established New France as an extension of France and Canada. But with his death, it came under the control of the Catholic Church, who tried to establish a French and native Catholic utopia. To this end, Saint Marie of the Incarnation founded a school and convent for French and native girls in 1638. In the following year, the Jesuits established the mission of Sainte Marie among the Hurons in Ontario. The first French colony in Ontario was established in 1642 when the French completed their colonization of the St. Lawrence River by reaching Lake Ontario. That year also saw the founding of Montreal by Paul de Chomedy, Sieur de Maisonneuve, and Jeanne Mance, who named it Ville-Marie. In 1644, Jeanne Mance opened the first hospital in North America. However, New France would soon find itself at threat once again with the outbreak of the Beaver Wars in 1649, when the English allied Iroquois conquered land in southern Ontario from the French, who were allied with their rivals, the Huron. Now, by 1650, New France could Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, the St. Lawrence region, and parts of southern Ontario. But in this entire area, they only had 700 colonists. To grow New France, it needed more people, and as such, more people were brought in, such as Louis Chartier, the first surgeon in Ville-Marie. Saint Marguerite Bourgeois became the first teacher in Ville-Marie. In 1663, the French crown, under newly in charge King Louis XIV, took direct control over New France, which became a royal province. By this time, the province had 3,000 people and would now be under the control of an intendant, Jean Talon, who arrived in 1665 with 1,100 soldiers, the first large
So, by the way, Historia Judica, if you're still
European
here,
army in Canada.
if you're still here, Historia Judica, please, I invite someone, invite as many people. The stream is having an aneurysm right now. Okay. Yeah. If you can still hear me, please spread aware, please invite people to the stream. Hopefully the conditions are not too bad. You can still see and hear me. Just tell me if the lag is too bad. If it's too bad, then, not bad much. Okay. I hear clicks. Me too. I don't think that has anything to do with the stream. It might just be that I'm using the speaker. And yeah, the Litany of the Blessed Virgin Mary.
Was sent to deal with the Iroquois. Talon replaced the Bishop of Quebec as the most powerful man in New France, and he decided to reorganize it, creating the first census in Canadian history in 1668-6, which revealed 3,215 settlers, of which 2,034 were men and 1,181 were women. Now, as you can see, there were way less women than men, and so Louis XIV organized a program to send single, virtuous, and fit women between the ages of 15 and 30 to New France, and these women would become known as the King's Daughters. 800 women, mostly from northwestern France, would immigrate between 1663 and 1673, and this increased the population from 3,200 to 6,700 people. In 1669, Pierre Esprit Radisson and Médard de Groseilliers explored Lake Superior and Lake Erie for the English, leading to the creation of the Hudson's Bay Company the following year to trade. They established Fort Rupert in the Hudson Bay, leading to the creation of the colony of Rupert's Land on the 2nd of May, the first ever English colony in Quebec, Ontario, and Manitoba. And they soon...
Yeah, I was always curious about the whole thing involving Rupert's Land. Cleveland reference America, rah, USA, 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 USA. My grandparents are from Cleveland. And by the way, I have no one, they have not contacted me in a long while.
Established several trading posts.
My condolences. Ohio is hell. Yeah. I've heard some pretty bad things about it, when visiting there, I had to fight against Tozo Hideki and what other historical figure? Piotr. I had to fight against like Adolf Hitler and other great historical figures there. Ohio comes from the Hebrew word Sheol.
In 1673, France colonized
No,
the area
Israelites
around
originated in Japan, silly. I am a Japanese Hebrew Israelite.
Lake Superior, and by 1675, New France had 8,000 people. In 1688, the 9 Years' War broke out between France and England, and this time fighting actually happened in Canada. In October 1690, the Battle of Quebec took place between the colonies of New France and Massachusetts Bay, with the English trying to take Quebec but failing. The war ended in 1697 with France conquering all of Newfoundland after nearly obliterating the English population on the island. However, peace won't last long, and in 1701, the War of the Spanish Succession broke out between, once again, France and England, and France used that as an opportunity to finally conquer southern Ontario from the Iroquois. That accomplished the Peace of Montreal between New France and 39 native nations, ending the Beaver Wars. But war was still raging with England, which reconquered most of Newfoundland in 1706. In 1710, England, now known as Great Britain, conquered Acadia, and the next year conquered the area around the mouth of the St. Lawrence River. In 1713, the war ended, and Great Britain conquered mainland Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. In Nova Scotia, France was only left with Cape Breton Island and Prince Edward Island, which became the colonies of Ile Royale and Ile Saint-Jean, respectively. Meanwhile, the 2,500 Acadians now found themselves under British rule, though there were about 16,000 French Canadians in total. By 1720, the colony of Canada had a population of 24,954, and by 1730, it was 42,701. In 1726, Rupert's Land greatly expanded so that it now bordered French territory, which now extended to Manitoba after 1734.
Knowing French was so what for the video? Was so clutch for the video. What do you mean clutch? Came in handy. Here's my official opinion of France. Sorry for the bad Greek. I'm not. I love Turk. Yeah, I love the Turkish. So here's my official opinion of France. La France est une nation de contes et de fanfarons. Sa culture est basée sur l'autocélébration de personnages historiques, tout, et d'être sont leurs valeurs. Tout dans la culture française, ce que la nation française cherche à détruire maintenant. Et il n'y a rien de beau qui sort de la nation française à ce jour. Trop de libéralisme à mon goût. Hopefully my pronunciation... Bro's French pronunciation is actually pretty good. Thank you. I've learned French, but it's really because I'm I have a good ear when it comes to that, courtesy of my visual impairment. My ear would not be nearly as good without it.
Between 1731 and 1737, the King's Highway was built between Montreal and Quebec City, which was the longest road north of Mexico in the Americas. In 1740, another war broke out between Great Britain and France, this time again over succession, but the Austrian succession.
The fall of New France.
Now, the War of Austrian Succession ended in 1748, but it prompted the British to found Halifax in Nova Scotia, the first time a British colony had been created using public instead of private capital. This led to the native Mi'kmaq people considering it a violation of the treaties that they had signed in 1726, and so Father Le Loutre's war broke out between them and the British. Now, of course, the French were not going to miss an opportunity to go to war with the British again, but this was a mistake as they and the Mi'kmaq would be completely driven out of Nova Scotia, although they managed to retain control of New Brunswick. Once the war ended in 1755, there were 55,000 French people in Canada, and the British decided that they had had enough of the Acadians. So Nova Scotia's governor, Charles Lawrence, ordered for their expulsion, resulting in 11,400 being deported to British and French North America over the next decade. Most of them would end up settling in Louisiana, where they would create the Cajun culture, which is a shortened version of Acadian. They would be replaced by the New England planters, who were the first major group of English-speaking settlers in Canada who did not arrive directly from Great Britain, and about 8,000 of these people would migrate throughout the 1760s. Now, in 1756, the 7 Years' War broke out, and can you guess the sides? Yeah, you can. It's France and Great Britain once again who are at war.
Okay. Americans enter the chat now. Acadians get French settlers in Missouri. Better.
British acted decisively, capturing and destroying the major French fortress at Louisbourg in 1758.
Except I love France. The thing is this. I love France before the Revolution. After the Revolution, no. The only post-revolutionary things I like about France are the great impressionist composers such as Debussy and whatnot. But they're artists that come from a time that was still less revolutionary than today. The arts are sacred. They need to be honored. Sir Welsh, you are still here. Ge oss idag vår dagliga bröd är förlåst oss vår skuld som och förlåter våra skuldnere och led oss icke in fristelse men fri oss från det onde. Amen. Norwegian set of a contest. How horrible was my Norwegian? New England Patriots, football, NFL, rock and roll, the internet, rah. Set of a contests. Quit speaking Somali. Might make that my official status. Pronunciation is crazy. All right.
Which gave them control of the region. However, the decisive moment happened at the Battle of the Plains of Abraham on the 13th of September, 1759, which ended the siege of Quebec and gave the British control over the city. Between July and September 1760, Montreal was captured, resulting in the near total conquest of New France. This was finalized with a British victory in 1763, and at the Treaty of Paris, all of New France was ceded to Great Britain. New France's 70,000 inhabitants were now all subjects of King George III, who quickly issued the Royal Proclamation, which was the first ever document in Canadian history to recognize the Indigenous title to their land.
No! No, too nice to the French. The French. Wait a minute. There's no Canada like French Canada. It's the best Canada in the land. The other Canada is hardly Canada. If you lived here for a day, you'd understand. There's no Canada like French Canada. It's the best Canada in the land. The other Canada is a merde Canada. If you lived here for a day, you'd understand. Shalom Aleichem. Charlemagne is the successor to Augustus. This is where things get ugly now.
Now under British control, reorganized, with Acadia becoming New Brunswick and Canada renamed as the province of Quebec, with control of Labrador, southern Quebec, and southern Ontario. Additionally, Rupert's Land was now extended to southern Alberta and Saskatchewan and most of Manitoba. In 1769, the island of St. John was separated from the colony of Nova Scotia and would later be renamed Prince Edward Island. In 1774, the British explorer became the first ever European to explore British Columbia. In Quebec, the British tried to suppress French culture. It became obvious that they would not be assimilated. In 1774, the Quebec Act was passed, which outlined how Quebec would be governed.
Why does this video completely skip over the rest period of Canadian colonization? aka was founded by ancient Albanians, early Albanians. Allahu Akbar. All right. So, yeah, I mean, my major concern is the lack of Vaucheneries representation within this history. You see, the Vaucheneries are an oppressed minority group here. They need to be represented, you know? And also, where's the whole Narslan dispute with Wolcadia? I've never seen, like, they've never mentioned anything regarding the Wolcadian King Thavernach and the Thracians and how Thavernach supported the French.
The British decided to maintain the old system.
Ancient Canadians spoke Armenian. Hang on. Ermeniler, eşcin selik, suçundan, suçludur. Ermenistan'a ölüm, soykırım hiç yaşanmamış olsa bile ve yaşasın Türkiye. Çok yaşa Türkiye, çok yaşa Türkiye. Türk.
Keeping the seigneurial system, ensuring free practice of Catholicism, and leaving property and civil laws to be decided.
Ensuring free practice of Catholicism. All right,
according to the French legal system.
Then.
This made people in the British colonies further south angry, and was one of the many reasons they declared war the next year, starting the American Revolutionary War. The new Patriot Army decided to invade Canada, expecting widespread support. Though migrants from the 13 colonies and English merchants generally supported the revolution, the upper class, clergy, and landowners were generally opposed to it. Among French Canadians, there was some sympathy, but it was not the majority of people who supported it, especially because many patriots fighting specifically as a reaction to the Quebec Act, among other issues.
Yeah, like the American Revolution was just awful. It was very criminal.
The Patriots captured Montreal, but were beaten back on the final day of the year at the Battle of Quebec, thanks to Guy Carleton. Because of this, the tide turned, and Canada's future is separate from the United States, was ensured, especially as the United States declared independence the next year without including Canada. Although Canada was saved from conquest, the United States won the war in 1783 and conquered the southwestern part of the Quebec province, which now became the American Northwest Territory. The Americans who had remained loyal to the British, known as United Empire Loyalists, now found themselves in a country that they did not feel that they belonged to. 15% of them, around 70,000, left the country, of which 50,000 fled to Canada. So many of them settled in western Nova Scotia that in 1784 it was split off and turned into the colony of New Brunswick. They turned these formerly French-speaking areas into English-speaking areas. Meanwhile, on the other side of the continent, in 1783, Spain colonized British Columbia and southern Yukon as part of the colony of Nootka. This made it the first country to colonize British Columbia and Yukon. But the next year...
Wait a minute. That area is Narsland, Volcaria. It's Venun Dovinchen Volcalons. On Sven, I see Shunlands at Kanaza Zin or Kaskaza Zin. Zer, Ruk Losk History Konazo. I Dashus Hinio, Shorkav Undash Inforchentiers. Rukdash Senio, Rukdash. Hang on, let me find the map. I'll find it. Here it is. Let me show you the actual history here. Rose out here saying nonsense. No, you see, look, take a look at the actual history. If at the actual dispute between Canada and the actual history involving Canada, Britain, the United States, yada yada, you'll see a completely different thing. So this down here, the green, the bottom right, you see the core Wolcadian territory. You see the Dominion Zonstiat Kaskaza, or Dominion of Cascadia in English, there in the light red. You see the Alaska Purchase, and you see this is the true history of the event. And Micah History, I have got to call you out on the bullshit for not including the Canadian disputes with Volcadia in your history video. My brother says that you look like the French. You like a French carrot. Je déteste la France. Je déteste la France. Je la déteste. Je la déteste. And you know this. Well, my video is currently demonetized. You know, look, I will say this. You know, I am tired of people calling me anti-Semitic. You know, I look like that. Look, I'm just tired of people calling me anti-Semitic. You know, like here, I'm gonna be honest. You know, I've had it up to here. I've had it up to here with people calling me anti-Semitic. You know, I've just had it up to here. Had it up to here. It's not right. People keep calling me anti-Semitic. It's not right. It is a blatant accusation. No consideration, no care for the actual facts of what I believe in. Because people have, like, I've had it up to here with them. I've had it up to here. Bro, I'm canceling this guy.
It was shared between Spain and Great Britain, which now control land from the Atlantic to the Pacific. with 8,000 loyalist settlers having settled in the southwest of the province of Quebec. In 1791, it was split into English-speaking Upper Canada and French-speaking Lower Canada under the Constitutional Act of 1791. Back in Nootka, as you could imagine, the Spanish and British weren't exactly cooperating, and this led to the Nootka crisis in 1789, in which Spain prepared for war with French backing. However, that backing never came, since France was a bit distracted in 1789, if you guys know what I mean.
Yeah, the French were dealing with Satanism, I know. Micah forgot to mention the Indian explorer Baba Ganesh. Yeah, tell us about the legacies of Baba Ganesh. Like, the dude legit took the tree flag of Wolcadia and claims it as his own. Oh, I'm sorry.
This led to the British sending an expedition under Alexander Mackenzie by land between 1792 and 1793, and under George Vancouver to explore the area by sea between 1791 and 1795. This led the Spanish to abandon Nootka entirely in 1795. The following year, York, now Toronto, was chosen as the capital of Upper Canada, which also became the first British colony to abolish slavery in 1793. Back in the West, more expeditions were organized by the British to explore what is now British Columbia, under people like David Thompson and Simon Fraser.
Norwegian said of a contest, what did I say about bringing back the church from Jewish influence? You see, we got to get rid of the Trinity. We got to get rid of the Nicene Creed. Jewish influence, you see.
Fraser. Now, in 1812, the War of 1812 began. Yeah, wow, good job, historians, whoever named that war. And it was a war between the United
Isn't Catholicism just Islam with Buddha, though? Like, I've legit heard Proct say that.
States and the United Kingdom over maritime disputes and land.
Jewish influence, probably because the doctrine came from the a false messiah pretending to be the Jewish messiah guy.
Disputes on the frontier. American frontier states wanted to invade Canada to suppress the natives' raids on their settlements, which had been supported by the British. They mainly focused on invading Upper Canada because many of the settlers there were Americans, and so they assumed that they would be greeted as liberators. However, because the majority of people there were descendants of Loyalists or French Canadians, they opposed the invasion, leading to its defeat at the Battle of Queenston Heights in October. Another invasion was organized the following year, during which York was captured and burned. But once the Americans advanced into Lower Canada, they were defeated at the Battle of Chateauguay and later the Battle of Chrysler's Farm. In 1814, the Americans were driven out of Canada at the Battle of Lundy's Lane. And though the war ended with no changes, it was seen as a victory in Canada, since Canadians had managed to repel the Americans, and some even ended up burning the White House, although don't tell. This would be the last.
Yeah, good. The White House deserves it. I'm gonna be honest about January 6th. I'm really disappointed in Donald Trump for doing that. I really thought that he would do better, like actually, better deeds, like actually stage an insurrection. Like I wish Trump properly did something about the whole situation in our country, like the insanity of liberal dominance, rather than what he actually did, which was bullshit.
Last time Canada was ever invaded, and it resulted in firm British control of the land, with the border settled at the 49th parallel in 1819 at the London Convention, which also established joint British and American control of Oregon Country, which included most of British Columbia. Nevertheless, the British were now wary of American influence in Canada, and this led to the second main wave of immigration to Canada, known as the Great Migration. The British had been worried about how 300,000 French people in Lower Canada and Rupert's Land and 200,000 American people in Upper Canada, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Southern Lower Canada had made up the majority of the Canadian population. And they feared that these people might be open to invaders in case of another American invasion. Therefore, they encouraged immigration from the British Isles after the War of 1812.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I wish the Canadian. By the way, Micah, history, I do have an idea for an alternate history. Simply a more powerful Canada.
Now, in 1820, New Brunswick formally split from Nova Scotia, and 5 years later, the rest of mainland Canada was colonized, founding the colony of the Northwest Territories, which was the first colony in the province of the same name today. Although the British had tried their best to get rid of French and American influence in Canada, American and French Republican ideas had a lot of sway in Canada. As a result, more immigration from the British Isles was encouraged, and in Upper Canada, a conservative oligarchy known as the Family Compact was formed.
All right, hold on. By the way, this is not just a reaction video. This will be an all-night affair. It begins as a reaction video, but I have a couple plans for what I will be doing afterwards, which will include joint gaming venture joint gaming venture ordered by the Emperor. Joint gaming venture from the Emperor, and where I will be having some type of playthrough in some type of game. I do not know which game I will do yet, but I know that whatever game that I do, it will be a good one. Another plan that I have as well, just be a general discussion about the history of Canada. And another one will be, keep in mind, like, I've invited plenty of people. Like, there's a very small chance that Redeemed Zoomer himself will join the live stream simply because I've invited to so many people. It's an exceedingly small chance, though. But my history, I will make sure that your channel gets advertised to as many people as possible. Just making some tea, that's all. Love that guy. Yeah, Redeem Zoomer, he's epic. Norwegian sentiment contest, probably just gonna spam VaticanCatholic.com. You need to accept all 4 members of the Trinity as established and accepted by VaticanCatholic.com. Because otherwise, you ain't an American. Redeemed Zomer Hereticus. He thinks that there are 3 members of the Trinity, when in reality there is 4 members in the Trinity. What did you think about my citation of a Sahih Hadith? You see, your Sahih Hadith is not a Hadith. It is a piece of Korean propaganda, and it is not a Muslim Hadith. It's a Korean Hadith that is ultimately run by the government of Mozambique, which is ultimately run by the government of Uruguay. And I'll tell you why that's a problem. You see, the government of Uruguay has an arrest warrant, not because I did anything wrong, but because I have this little yerba mate. You see, yerba mate. Yeah, that ain't the least schizo thing. The least schizo thing is me pretending to be a flat earther.
Its members were opposed to democracy and represented the interests of the Loyalist and Anglican elite. In Lower Canada, these people were known as the Lower Canada Tories, mostly British merchants, along with some French landowners who wanted the French Canadians to assimilate into English culture through the abolition of the seigneurial system, the replacement of French civil law with English common law, and the replacement of the Catholic Church with the Anglican Church. However, there was growing opposition to these elites, and in 1837, 2 major rebellions broke out, one in Upper Canada and one in Lower Canada. After the arrest of the Speaker of the Lower Canadian Assembly, Louis-Joseph Papineau, his supporters, the Patriotes, broke out in rebellion, but they were soon crushed, and Papineau fled.
heresy, schism, wanting to replace the Catholic Church with the Anglican Church. You see, I'll tell you why that is not schism. You see, you know how bad it is to have an ex-wife, right? You know how bad it is. The King of England, he wanted a proper ex-wife. Yeah. Just made some iced tea, that is all. Stay out of our ecclesiology, Jew. I'm not Jewish. I'm part of the Nation of Islam.
To the United States. Inspired by Puppy Nose Rebellion, the Scottish mayor of Toronto, William Lyon Mackenzie, organized a
No, he's not a fake Jew.
Rebellion to establish a democratic republic free from British rule. After his defeat at the Battle of Montgomery's Tavern on the 7th of December, his disorganized army was scattered and he fled to the United States. Nevertheless, rebellions continued the following year, and soon Montreal was surrounded. Insurrectionist Robert Nelson read the Declaration of Independence of Lower Canada in Napierville in 1838. Although both rebellions were soon crushed, it was obvious that things needed to change. And to this end, the British sent John Lambton, 1st Earl of Durham, to write a report on how to fix this problem. After 5 months in Canada, the Durham report was completed in 1839, which advocated for a responsible government, a government that would be responsible to the will of the colonists themselves instead of the British government. He also saw the French Canadians as backwards and saw the only solution to the French problem as assimilation. So he advocated for the union of Upper and Lower Canada so that this would be possible. This led to the Act of Union 1840, which united the two colonies into the province of Canada, with English as the only official language in 1841. The ascension of James Bruce, 8th Earl of Elgin, as Governor-General in 1847 led to the pardon of the rebel leaders and the implementation of responsible government in 1848, after its implementation in Nova Scotia earlier that year. For the first time, most Canadian men.
By the way, I'd like to say, all right, yes, so one person is right.
Now enjoyed democratic
Every
rights.
single
In
person.
1846, the modern borders of Canada were finally created. When Oregon Territory was split between the United States and the United Kingdom, the Oregon Treaty establishing the border at the 49th parallel. In 1849, Vancouver Island was established as a colony with its capital at Fort Victoria. And in 1853, the colony of Queen Charlotte Islands was established. After gold was found in the Fraser Valley, the Fraser Canyon Gold Rush happened in 1858, leading to a large influx of American gold miners. In order to maintain order and prevent the Hudson Bay's Company from taking all the profit, Governor James Douglas created the colony of British Columbia, which then incorporated the colony of the Queen Charlotte Islands in 1863 and Vancouver Island in 1866. Everything north of the 60th parallel remained as part of the Northwest Territories. In 1850, meanwhile, the Great Migration ended, having changed Canada from a majority French Catholic area to a majority English Protestant area. During this period,
that's really sad that Canada is now a majority Protestant area instead of the proper Wolcottian territory it was always assigned to be. Venator, Vinlons, Venator, Sir Johan, once Traverli. Johanur Rofetta Onidiarst. Karer inwonslok cashen. Turdash ost. Turdash ost. Vinwons. Roch. Udzalav. Roch. Kreit. Roch fonchen kreit unen ferrot.
Period 400
Canada is only 53% Canadian. This is only self-identification. Oh God. Like oh, 53% Christian, I meant. Converted to Thorax faith, man.
and 80,000 English and Scottish people immigrated to Canada. And especially after the Great Famine from 1845 to 1852, 320,000 Irish people also immigrated. Throughout the 1850s, many politicians in the province of Canada began contemplating Western expansion and launched a series of expeditions into the lands held by the Hudson's Bay Company. Nevertheless, Canada was still deeply divided between French and English Canadians, and few politicians could unite the populations. Enter John A. Macdonald, a conservative politician who, in league with the French conservative Georges-Étienne Cartier and George Brown, decided to create a Canadian federation to resist American expansion.
John Brown's body lies moldering in the grave. John Brown's body lies moldering in the grave. John Brown's body lies moldering in the grave. But his soul goes marching on. John Brown sees that everything we own and buy was made by slaves. He sees the poor men of Indonesia stuck in the factory. Do you think that he would not lead a revolution like... All right.
In 1864, this led to the Charlottetown and Quebec conferences, which came up with 72 resolutions that would lay out a framework to unite all 8 British colonies in Canada, which were
autistic. Nah, I'm just weird.
The colonies of Canada, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland, Rupert's Land, Northwest Territory, New Brunswick, and British Columbia. Now, by this time, Canada had a population of 3 million. Once the government was figured out, the London Conference of 1866 was held, which led to the British North America Act, uniting the colonies of Canada, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia into the Dominion of Canada,
Caesar,
with its capital in Ottawa. Now, this didn't make Canada independent, but it became a lot more autonomous and self-governing. This ended the period of British domination and started the period of post-Confederation Canada.
Hey, Julius, hey, Kaiser. You need to be more tolerant, Kaiser. You're anti-Semitic, even though you're Jewish, Kaiser.
However, the new Dominion had a lot of challenges to face, such as the need for railroads in the Maritimes, possible northward American expansion after the end of their Civil War in 1865, the clash between English Canadian nationalists who wanted the Dominion to be dominated by English language and culture, and the French Canadian nationalists who wanted control over French-speaking Quebec.
Yeah.
There was also division between liberals who wanted a decentralized and more democratic union, and the conservatives who wanted a more centralized union. How would Canada navigate these divisions? Let's find out.
Now, here's my official comment on Canadian history so far. Judeus Caesar. Yes, I'm Judeus Caesar. So, here's my official take on Canadian history right now. Number one, cool country, cool history. I love the anti-American aspects of it. I love that Canada right now is this, that Canada, at least in the in the history so far, has been a conservative nation. However, I am opposed to the insane liberalism which has taken over the country as of now. My main and primary concern is this. Number one, Quebec is to be respected because Quebec comes from a time when France was actually a cool country. Quebec needs to, I would be pro Quebec. I would be pro autonomy for Quebec. And I would be in favor of turning Quebec into its own separate dominion of the British Empire. With the rest of Canada, however, I would make it a very centralized nation. By the way, I might do something related to the Wolvers because the channel is a Wolvers channel officially. Just a couple of thoughts. Hang on.
Canada faced its first major challenge very quickly with the outbreak of the Red River Rebellion in 1869 by the Métis, who are descendants of natives and French people. It was caused by the Canadian government's encouragement of English settlers in their land, which culminated in Métis leader Louis Riel's execution of Thomas Scott, a Protestant. This led to outrage among the English Protestant Canadians, and Prime Minister John A. Macdonald sent militia to the newly acquired Northwest Territories to put down the Métis Rebellion. Nevertheless, the province of Manitoba was created in 1870, which would protect the rights of all English, French, Métis, Native, Catholic, and Protestant. Although the Métis were half Native, the Canadians were definitely not nicer to the pure Natives, who had to sign a Treaty of Ceres that would relinquish their claim on the land, opening up their land for settlement and leaving them in reservations. This culminated in the Indian Act of 1876, which governed the relations between the government and Native Canadians and established the residential school system to educate them. Meanwhile, to get the other 6 colonies to join it, Canada promised to build a railroad that would stretch all across the country. This caused British Columbia to join in 1871 and Prince Edward Island to join in 1873. That year, Macdonald created the Northwest Mounted Police to police the Northwest Territories and assert Canadian sovereignty against American encroachment. These Mounties, as they would come to be known, were legendary for their ability to keep law and order